Hallootjes and welcome to this demo and introduction video to SilverBullet. SilverBullet is a note-taking application. There are millions of note-taking applications, but SilverBullet is kind of aimed at people with a hacker's mindset. People that kind of want to do a little bit more with their notes than just take them, like query them, search them, structure them in some ways, and like build new stuff using it in creative ways, hacky ways in a sense, right? And when I say hacker here, I don't mean like cracking. I don't mean hacking into systems. It's more of like a creative mindset, using your tools to build your tools, using your notes and like coming up with creative uses of them. The SilverBullet website at silverbullet.md that we're looking at here is in itself running on SilverBullet. So this whole UI is SilverBullet itself. It's just running in read-only mode, so you cannot actually edit anything here, but you can click around and it will function effectively exactly as a SilverBullet instance that you run yourself, right? Okay, so, but we're not going to do anything here. There's also a playground. There's play.silverBullet.md where you can even you can edit stuff, but that environment resets every 15 minutes. What we're going to do during this demo is just run it locally and show you what that looks like. So let me start right there. I have an empty folder here, which has no files in it. And I have SilverBullet already installed. So that lives here, and I'm just going to start it like that, silverbullet. This gives me a URL on localhost, and I can open that in my browser. So what this does is it generates a default index page for you and a settings page and a thing like that. It has some onboarding information, so you can read through that, but it's going to kind of suggest to you that you push this button to import the core template library. So we're just not going to talk about it. We're just going to do that, right? It will import some templates, which will take just a second, into your space. And the space is basically a different name for the folder that we have here, right? Okay, so let me kind of clean this out and say, okay, so this is what SilverBullet looks like, right? At the top, we have the name of the page. We have some action buttons here that we'll look at, but the core of the screen is the place where the magic happens. This is where you take your notes. And here you can write Markdown. So plain text or with Markdown codes, right? So you say, hello there, this is a note, and then you can select that and use keyboard shortcuts like things like this, and it will put these double asterisks around it, which is Markdown code for making text bold. Now you see the asterisks here, but the moment you move your cursor outside of them, they disappear. And this is what's called live preview. So you kind of have a hybrid editing here happening here, right? Like usually it kind of looks like a WYSIWYG, kind of what you see is what you get. But the moment you move your cursor inside of any of these codes, you see what's actually behind them. And you can do different things, right? You can create a header, you can add another header, you can make things italic, you can say, you know what, I have a link I want to paste in here, like here's a SilverBullet community, and the moment that you cannot paste that on top of, for instance, a selection, it will use this Markdown syntax for links, and then you can click on that link and you go to that page and so on, right? So in principle, this is where it starts, right? It's a nice, clean Markdown editing environment. And if that's enough for you, great. Like this is the tool for you, but we can go a little bit deeper. So this is just one page. This is the index page. Let's say that we now want to use this tool to track books that I'm reading, right? This is a thing you may want to do. Let me use a quick shortcut like a slash command to create a header here. So I can do slash and then say h2, make this a level 2 heading. You can actually do this a little bit differently. You can say, hey, like I have books and I want to turn that into a level 2 heading, and it will just do that for you, right? There's a bunch of like useful slash commands which are all coming from that library that we just imported in the beginning, by the way. And we're going to say, okay, I'm reading 2 books right now. I'm reading Harry Potter and I'm reading Foundation. I'm using this double bracket notation, and this is the page link notation that SilverBullet supports. As you see, the color of these links is kind of reddish brown, which suggests that those pages do not yet exist. The moment you click on them, it creates the page itself. So you say like, okay, this is an interesting book, many parts to the series, right? What you will also notice is say, hey, there's a linked mentions section here at the bottom, which basically lists all the pages in your space that are linking here, which is right now only the index page, right? Which is at position 88, but that's not super important. But here you can get a sense of like, okay, you kind of are going to build up a wiki style, like environment with different pages linking to different things. And this is how you can kind of navigate it, right? You click links from one page to the next, but you can also see the reverse, right? What page is linking here? So using this, we can go back and see, indeed, this is where that link appeared. Let me create the other page as well. Actually, let me do that a little bit differently. So there's different ways of navigating and creating pages. One is by just kind of creating a link and clicking on it. The other is to use the page picker, which is this thing on top right. You can also just hit Command or Control K. And then you can see all the pages that exist in your space. Some of them you will recognize, like the index page we're in. There's also a settings page and the Harry Potter page we just created. There's also a bunch of library pages that we just imported. We're not going to look at them, but they're kind of supposed to be generally useful. And maybe we'll look at them in a bit later, but for now we can ignore them. What you can also do is actually say, type the name of a new page, like Foundation, which does not yet exist. And when it doesn't exist, it offers you to create it. So you just hit enter in this case, and it will now go to that page. And you can see, indeed, there's already a link to this page on the index page. This is a sci-fi book, also available as a Apple TV series. And actually, because one of the things I still have to do and haven't done yet is I want to watch that series. So what I can do is I create a task. Say, watch the Foundation adaptation on Apple TV Plus, right? So this looks fancy, but it's actually just, again, Markdown under the hood. So it's just a bulleted list with this like square bracket thing happening there. It looks nice, and you can actually toggle it. So you can say, hey, this is done, this is not done, and so on. But in principle, it's all text files on disk, which is actually something I wanted to demonstrate here. So let me just quickly kill this and show you what's actually in the folder here right now. So each page is represented as a Markdown file. So we started out with index.md. There's an automatically generated settings file. We created Foundation and Harry Potter.md, and we imported a bunch of stuff into library. If I look at Foundation, you'll see that's it, right? It's exactly what you see on the screen, just in like UTF-8 stored as files on disk. So that's all there's to it, which also means that you can turn this into a Git repository, right? You can git init this, you can git commit, you can git push pull, and use that as a kind of like a versioning and distribution mechanism. Let me start SilverBullet again. All right, so now we're back. Okay, so now we created 2 book pages. Fine. This is already very nice. But now let's say that I actually don't want to manually track a list of all the books that I have in my space. I kind of want to just go off, create a new page about a new book I'm reading, and it somehow should magically appear on this list. With SilverBullet, you can do that. But before, okay, let me just show you how to approach this. So for this, we can write queries, and in queries, we can write in a template. So we have a template thing, which is using this triple backtick fenced code block notation, right? And in here, you write Markdown in the SilverBullet template language. So you can say hello there, and that's nothing special, but there's a special notation with these double brackets. And in using these double brackets, you can do more fancy stuff like calculations, right? You can say, what is 3 plus 10? And the moment you move out, the live preview mode kicks in, and it will actually perform this calculation. What I'm going to show to you right now is that you can also write queries here. So in these expression blocks, you can also add a query and say, hey, I want to query all the pages. So what does that do? It will, let me just show you. It will give you a list a Markdown table of all the pages in my space. And there may be more here than you would expect because we imported a lot from the library. So the first thing we immediately think here is like, okay, I wanted to see a list of all the books, but how do I actually distinguish which of those pages represents books, right? And there's different ways to do this. My favorite way is using tagging. So what you can do is I'm not going to go to this foundation page, and I'm going to add what's called front matter. Now you may have seen this notation before. It's kind of like a, not technically part of Markdown, but kind of like a standard thing to use. And here you can say, okay, I'm going to add some tags to this particular page, and actually I'm going to add one specifically, which is a book. And for Harry Potter also, I'm going to add front matter and tags is book. All right, what you will now see in this table is that there's a whole bunch of metadata about each of the pages. One of them is the name of the page, the size, content type, not that interesting. If we scroll a little bit more to the right, you will see there's also a tag section. And the Harry Potter and Foundation books should now have, oh yeah, there you go. At the top, they are tagged with book. So now I can narrow down my query. Now I just said page, but okay, there's two ways to approach this. One is to say where tags equals book. And now indeed we see only the pages tagged with book, but also tagging is kind of a thing in itself. So now we create a new kind of object type, if you will, called book. So what you can do is just say like, I'm going to query book, which is the same thing. All right, there's a lot of information here that I'm not interested in. So let me just kind of narrow down this query and say select, just honestly, the name is enough. Okay, so now we have a list, an automatically updating list of books in my space. If I create another new page, for instance, Harry Potter 2, and I'm going to tag this with book as well. This is the sequel to Harry Potter, right? You will see that immediately this appears in this list. That's nice, but it's a table and I cannot, click there yet, right? This is not perfect just yet. What I kind of want to do is to render this as a list of pages that I can actually just click on. For this, there's various ways to do this. One easy way is to render it using a template. And we imported a whole bunch of useful standard templates. One of them is the query page template, which I can open it in a minute. Basically, it's going to render a page object with a page link. So let me just show you what that looks like. So now we have a list of all the pages that are matching, and we can click on it and to navigate there. That's already nice. Let me just show you what that template looks like. So templates don't appear in the page picker, they appear in the template picker. And there's different ways to get there. Let me show you another part of the UI here, which is the command palette, which is showing you all the commands that exist in SilverBullet. And some of these are custom, some of them are built in and things like that. One of them is the template picker, which also you can open with Command-Shift-T, which is what you would usually do. And then there was this query page thing that we just used, right? So let me just quickly show you what that looks like. Again, there's some front matter here, which is tagging this page as a template. There's a description, which is this metadata. And then this is the actual template, right? It says, okay, asterisk, double, and then inject the name attribute at this particular place. It also has link mentions, so you can see where this template is actually being used right now. And so on. Okay, but this is kind of nice, but what I want to do is specialize a little bit. I want to not just list only the pages by title, I also want to add the author information here. So let me do that. But before I do that, let me actually annotate the pages that I already created with this information, right? So if I now go to Harry Potter, which here you will also see is tagged as a book, I'm going to add author information. J.K. Rowling, and for Foundation, author is Isaac Asimov from the top of my head, right? All right, so if we now go back to the home page, I'm just going to use a shortcut for that. We'll see that information is not included here right now. And I wanted to. So there's two ways to do this. One is to create my own different template that shows that information. The other one is to kind of do this inline. And I'm going to go the inline path, and we're just going to iterate over all the books here. So I'm going to say for each book, let me first get this into a state where it's close to where we were before. So basically this is like a loop, right? So we're iterating now over the results of a query. This is the query book. And for each of those, we're going to inject the name attribute. So if we move out here, we'll just see the name. If we want to get back to where we were in terms of functionality, we just do this, right? So now we're turning this into a link. And now we have basically what we got before. Like this is exactly the content that was in this template that we showed before, right? Now I also want to add the author information. So I'm going to say by author. And I want to make that bold. I'm just going to make that bold. And there you go. Now we see that Foundation is written by Harry Potter. This is written by J.K. Rowling. And actually for Harry Potter 2, we didn't define this, so the author is undefined. So let me just quickly fix that. Just add that here. Copy and paste. Here's your friend. And there you go. Now you can also imagine that you can do this, can add additional attributes, right? You can say, what is the genre of this book? And then you can filter, you can create subsections on this page where you say, hey, give me all the sci-fi books, give me all the fantasy books and things like that. That's all possible. Again, we're just scratching the surface here. There's a bunch of functionality in SilverBullet, but this is kind of like where I wanted to leave it for now. I'll do more videos where we go a little bit more in depth. So where to go from here? So on the SilverBullet website, again, there's a whole bunch of information. Play around with it, click around with it, install it yourself on your local machine and see what it can do. I also recommend visiting the SilverBullet community at community.silverbullet.md, where I kind of post updates of the releases, people are asking questions, and honestly, it's a very stimulating environment to see what you can do in SilverBullet and people running into problems and helping each other and things like that. SilverBullet is open source, it's free to use. It does take some effort to kind of set up initially, but hopefully it all pays off. It's a web app, right? So you can access it locally, but if you install it on your network machine or on some cloud VPS or something like that, you will have access to it from anywhere. And there is an offline mode. So let me just quickly demonstrate that as well before we leave. I can click on this icon, and what that will do is it's going to sync all my content locally. Now, if I go back to my terminal and I kill this thing, so the server is no longer running, what you'll see in a second is that it will detect that it's offline. Let's see if that works. Yeah, the bar now turns yellow, which means not connected. But if I now reload, everything is still there. Everything still works. I can make edits. I can change the author to Rowling's. And everything still works. All functionality is still here. The queries still work. Like everything is still indexed and things like that. And then after you reboot the server again, all my local changes made on the local device will sync back and are stored again. This is extremely useful on mobile devices. This is how I use SilverBullet on my phone. This works great on iOS and Android. You can add it as a PWA to your home screen. You can switch it to sync mode. It will download all the content locally. Whether you have on a mountain or underwater or wherever you can use your phone, you can still take notes and do everything you want. And then whenever the internet connectivity comes back, it's synced and it's all done. All right, I think that's enough for this introduction. Thank you and see you in the next one.